All right, let's get started. Before I start with the slides and introduce Craig to the group, I have a few housekeeping items. So there is a Q&A box at the bottom of the page for you to submit questions during the webinar, which I should be able to answer live, or we'll get back to you as soon as we're done with the webinar. There's also a short survey. It's really quick, I promise, but it helps us know what webinars really resonate with you, what you want to see toward the end. And then as always, this will be available on demand for free with a write-up on our blog. So we hope to see you there as well. All right, now let's get started. I am very happy to introduce you to my new CEO. So I'm the VP of Professional Services at Deepcrawl. Work on a team with 10 other technical SEOs, and we help our enterprise clients. I could go on and on about my team and my role, but really what I want to do is talk to you, Craig. You have a new role at Deepcrawl. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, I am unbelievably excited to lead this team of folks at Deepcrawl. My background prior to Deepcrawl, I was at a number of high growth SaaS companies, and I've spent a good portion of my career focused on marketing technology. And so I've led teams and businesses across a variety of functions, sales and marketing and product. I've also been fortunate to lead highly specialized subject matter experts like Ashley and her team in the past as well. And so I think all that experience has set me up pretty well to lead Deepcrawl through this next phase of growth. And in this phase where we're laser focused on call it doubling down on our core capabilities, which is to put out an incredible product that our customers will love and our customers will value. We want to make sure we complement that product with a great customer success and professional services team, folks like yourself, Ashley, just to make sure that our customers can optimize their usage and can make actual website changes that impact their business in very real and meaningful ways.
I love that. So you've done a lot. And you've done a lot with different groups, but you just joined a company that is so highly focused on technical SEO and website intelligence. It's a big leap. What was the draw? Why Deepcrawl? Why did you want to go into this field?
Yeah, it is somewhat of a leap. I guess the good thing is that I think I'm smart enough to know that in my role, I don't have to be, nor will I ever be as much of an expert in technical SEO as someone like yourself, for example, or many of our customers who've spent many years practicing in this highly specialized field. That said, it's a space that's interesting, right? Especially given some of the dynamics that we've been seeing and the trends we've been seeing in the market lately. And the world is evolving; it's changing really rapidly. From how we buy products to how we learn to how we engage with other people, how we engage with brands, and it's truly been fascinating to witness. As I mentioned in the first question was, look, I've been in MarTech in a bunch of years, and the story in MarTech has always been digital transformation over and over again for 10 plus years now, and no one really quantified what does that actually mean, nor how far have various industries actually progressed along that spectrum. And in this last year, what we've seen is that it's been accelerated in such a way that there is this significantly what I would call greater focus on the need to drive optimal digital experiences for customers. And the reality is that the website for many companies, for many brands, is often the first and most impressionable of those digital channels. And so there's just this hyper focus on how do we create as optimized an experience on that channel as possible. And so when I looked at Deepcrawl, what I saw was this incredible opportunity to become a true partner to those organizations who are looking to understand, to optimize, to de-risk, let's call it their website, and understand the impact that a highly performant, a highly accessible website can ultimately have on revenue. So you're right in that I came in not knowing much about technical SEO. And so I am less familiar with the specifics there, but I do understand its importance, and I do understand that it's critical and will continue to unlock tremendous opportunities for businesses. One last thing I'll say is that, quite frankly, in a lot of our customers, much of the C-suite also doesn't understand technical SEO, and at least not on a deep level. And so in many ways, I can empathize with them. And in a sense, I think it makes me great for the role.
Yeah, I do like that. It feels like, so I felt like for a long time I was standing on someone's roof with pots and pans, being like, hey, this is wicked important. Like, you should be excited about that. And it feels like certain parts of the businesses are catching up with that in a really meaningful way.
I think so. And I think it also, as I think about the role and my excitement for it, it's like folks like yourself and the rest of the team that I've met at Deepcrawl, like everyone, all of you, all of us, we all sort of possess this love for data and actionable insights and what do we do with it. And some of that it's a bit infectious. And so I found myself very much drawn to the opportunity.
Yeah, we love it. I think you've got good energy on the teams here. So here's the agenda. We'll dive into this. So I'm going to have you cover search first age and how you've been talking about that, the importance of search, and in a few light ways. Obviously, we could talk your ear off about this. Please call me. I will hang out with you. I will join your Friday night parties to talk to you about this if you don't kick me out. And then, of course, how to build a strategy. So we're going to leave you with a few actions as well. So you have been speaking about the search first age quite a bit at events lately. What does it mean to you? What does that phrase mean to you?
Yeah, I view it more as a new acknowledgement of its importance to a variety of broader business functions. And so I think, there was a quote from a prominent MarTech leader that I often love to use. And it's that, search turns intent into discovery, discovery into authority, and authority into brand preference that drives sales and loyalty. And it's the driving sales and loyalty that is ultimately the goal for most of us in our businesses. And so this idea that people search for stuff, like that concept in and of itself isn't anything new. Like we've been searching for things for years.
Yeah.
But what we're referring to now is now what do we do about it? Like what do we do with all this data that we're getting as a result of search? And many more professionals are starting to take notice and starting to understand and looking to understand, how do I better action this data? And so that's really where we're going with entering into the search first age.
I like the thread that you pulled into that. So the idiom that you talked about, what starts with search, is that you had brand loyalty on the end of that. So I just caught that because I feel like there's such this intent to see search as just a marketing thing and to always ask for the ROI. But to me, it's more of just how you have to run the business and how you can run the business more effectively. I would love more folks to take notice that it starts with search, but it goes to that brand longevity, to who's going to talk to you offline, to that feeling of trust that we can't always attribute to anything specifically. Having a solid website, that's where we start. All right. Come on, slides. The importance of search. This is my jam right here. But I want to know, for you, how has search changed the way that you work? How has it changed the way you make decisions and the way you set priorities in leadership?
Yeah, it certainly has impacted me directly. It's clear in my mind that we're in this place where folks who actually acknowledge and action for this, call it search first consumer, they're going to set themselves up better for longer term success. And so we've recently did a study with a firm, e-consultancy, to do some data, to pull some data for us. And that data showed that about 35% of marketing leaders view SEO as the most important of the digital channels. The interesting thing is that same study also showed that the way that many leaders have responded to this is to pour a bunch of money into and resources towards digital channels, but towards paid digital channels, right? Yeah. And that is a bit of a problem, right? Those are most often digital ads, which are expensive. They drive up the cost of customer acquisition. Over time, starts to provide call it diminishing returns, and that entire mechanism for growth is a bit unsustainable. So as we start to think about our own growth at Deepcrawl, right, we're constantly focused on driving growth via organic channels. And so our CMO challenges her team to set targets, to beat targets, specifically around driving leads from organic. And
Yeah.
so, our team is rising to that challenge. And so when you start to sort of model out and see some of the cost savings that come as a result, while the output is the same results still come for a lower cost, it really makes it that much more real and that much more powerful. And so we've incorporated, this idea of, hey, let's shift towards organic and leverage our own technology to do so.
Yeah. And I think for me, we tend to be short-sighted, especially when it's money driven. And it does take a leap of faith to get to, or to really invest in search, knowing that the return might take a while. But if you look long-term, you see that you get more and more and more return for less investment, which is good. But I know it's really quick for people to say, I want to spend this amount of money and get these results now. Great to use paid in the short term, not going to keep you afloat forever. And it's tough, that 35%, that's too low. That's too low. I want more marketers to care, more marketers to do that. And it's interesting because I know CMOs have some of the lowest tenures of C-suites, not to any fault of their own, but when it comes to having a seat at the table. So I think that for me, a personal goal has been to talk to other people in the C-suite and other groups so they are bought in, because truly it affects all of them. So yes, we're getting there. We're getting there slowly. It's exciting. And Deepcrawl, we have investments. We went through our Series B investments. So we have a board. So tell me how you talk to our board about search. They may not be as savvy. They may not be as down in the weeds as my team. So how do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, well, we're a little bit fortunate in that because of their investment in Deepcrawl and their knowledge of Deepcrawl, they are probably more informed than most boards are on this topic. And I do think I second your point. I agree that others would benefit from sort of driving education, call it further up in the organization, if we think in a very traditional hierarchical sort of setup. And so whenever asked by customers, I always suggest that they promote SEO and organic growth as like key performance indicators or KPIs or business-wide objectives. And not just narrowly focus those objectives to marketing teams or to search teams. There's a ton of data out there on the impact and the efficiency of SEO as a low-cost acquisition channel, which we're really just touching on. And so I recently had a leader say to me, and I thought it really summed it up well, and he was a digital leader at an e-commerce business, and he says, website intelligence should not be an SEO metric. It has to be a business metric. And he really emphasized business as part of that comment. I really wish I'd recorded it and like blasted it out, but it was great, right? It reemphasizes this point that it goes beyond marketing teams, it goes beyond digital teams. It can really have a meaningful impact on an organization's bottom line to essentially shift resources from a higher cost channel to a lower cost channel and capture those savings that come along with it.
Yeah, for sure. I just recorded a talk for AdWorld. That was a nerve-wracking one. AdWorld is an awesome event. So where I like to use analogies a lot, usually baking ones, because I'm always hungry for cake. But in this case, talks about if you were opening an art gallery and technical SEO, especially, it's not a marketing channel. It really is infrastructure. So if you're building an art gallery, this is going to be the concrete foundation, the studs, the drywall. It's going to be the electricity, the plumbing. So it holds up the entire building, the entire business venture, but it also influences the environment as we move around that space. So we may not see and appreciate it, but it needs to start from that level and build up so that it becomes a multiplier of every other part of the business. So I like that message upward. But all right, challenging you now. How do you talk to your direct reports? How do you talk to other folks in the company about search and what it means to you?
Yeah, this is another one where the fact that we're at Deepcrawl, I feel like it's a little bit biased in my response. It's like, this is central to the value that we're bringing to customers. And I would certainly hope that the importance of search is a bit embedded in like who we are as a company here. And so we practice what we preach, right? Or it's a key metric in our quarterly objectives and key results, right? We use OKRs here at Deepcrawl, and we strive to attain organic results as part of those metrics. We're fortunate to have our own technology to ensure that we're optimizing our own website as well to help drive those results.
Yeah, I always say it's the shoemaker's daughter who sometimes needs, cobbling work done. But Yeah, it is exciting that we have the resource and we have discussions to talk about it. We work a lot with some really amazing clients, but we've been investing in our own site too, which I love. Okay, so I couldn't go one whole webinar without bringing this up, but our team in particular has spoken a lot of events about Core Web Vitals and how to measure performance. But I wanted to zoom back and talk about the Google page experience algorithm as a whole, because the algorithm is half Core Web Vitals. We've got the performance stuff, but it's also got 3 other areas around security, around interstitials and annoying ads, and about mobile friendliness. So we've got more chatter on this probably than any other update from Google, maybe aside from mobile first, and mobile's included in this. It's a big deal. We've got people throughout the different levels of businesses that we talk to. So it's, it's pulling it all together. So I want to know from business level, or from that sort of conversation as a business leader, is it changing the way that folks think about search, and a way that they even think and have awareness of Google algorithm updates? How has that influenced the conversation?
Yeah, that is a really thoughtful question. So when Google, considers, call it 4 really big metrics as part of a ranking algorithm, and a big initiative to sort of release this, it starts to give us an indication. It starts to tell us that, they're pushing for search to be a consideration that affects, multiple parts of an organization, of a business. And so, bundling the factors under, experience, right? It also shows how technical SEO, though, often call it invisible in many ways to users, it plays a huge part in how they experience the web and how they experience your site. And Google wants that experience to be great, right? And that's one of their business goals, right? They're telling us that. So for us here, it further validates the importance of the work that we're doing, and we're going to continue to provide our customers with the data they need to create those experiences. And I think technical SEO does that, right? It allows our customers to ensure their sites are crawlable and can adhere to Google's call it expectations around the user experience.
Yeah, if you're pouring money into paid ads or content or features or branding, technical SEO is what makes that whole experience possible, right? I love that we've moved beyond initially. I'm not dissing your word and crawling there, but that's the beginning, and it doesn't stop there, right? It becomes a multiplier. Trick question. Is there any business or type of business out there that you think can ignore search or put it all behind other efforts?
I feel like the simple answer here is just no, but I don't know if you'll let me get away with like just a simple no to that question. But I said this at the beginning. It's like the website is first and often most impressionable. Like that's the line I've been using over and over again. It's the most impressionable and first experience your customers and potential customers will have with your brand. And so you want that experience to be great, and you at least want it to be better than all of your competitors, right? Or more performant than all of your competitors. And so, I think it's important to try to capture and understand those benchmarks and seek to improve and seek to attain and beat those benchmarks as well. So you and I were talking yesterday about the types of questions we wanted to cover and where we wanted the conversation to go. And I did an exercise last night that I haven't really been spawned to do since my freshman year of college, when Professor Vinnie Ferraro challenged us to find one way or one scenario where something is done by true altruism, right? And there's a benefit to everything for you, even if it's unintentional. So that has haunted me forever. So last night I sat down and I was like, is there one business where I think that technical SEO and search comes last? I couldn't find one. Like in all earnestness, I couldn't find one. And what I did want to highlight is actually, one that's really close to my heart that you wouldn't think needs that much technical SEO or those types of features, but the Trevor Project out of New York City, which really helps to protect LGBTQ youth against suicide and violence against them. They need to show up in search for certain queries. And they've actually worked with different organizations to be able to scan search words and to scan keywords to see if there's a risk of suicide. But one thing I like on their website is that when you load it up, they
give you a prompt that says, if you need to close this out, hit escape a couple times. The website will close and erase all of the browser history with it. So there are things like that that require technical savvy, but are actually there not just for business, but to keep people safe and to support the entire mission. And I like that. It makes me feel good about getting into the job that I have.
I love that.
All right, let's don't peek. I move through slides very quickly. All right, let's go into building a search strategy. And I'm going to ask you questions about each one of these one-on-one. So I love the 5 steps. I love that there is a strategic and tactical viewpoint here. Number 1 isn't easy. So for SEOs, whether we like it or not, 50% of our job is education, at least, right?
Yeah.
That is how we are able to get our job done, both in terms of winning folks over and in terms of doing the thing. So how do you go about educating the audience that you want to hit or that you need to hit to sell these big businesses?
Yeah, I always try to speak to be understood. And I think it's critical that, as you're often introducing these, call them highly technical concepts to a less technical audience. And so understanding how those concepts then can translate into like impact to the business, understanding that translation can really go a long way. And so, what we like to do is, we do our best to help our users who are often more technical in nature to make that translation, to help them communicate with the broader organization. So, we have teams of folks, actually shameless plug for Ashley and your team, to help do that. And we're continuing to evolve our product in the direction of informing more senior stakeholders of the impact that technical SEO can provide in driving organic search and driving page experience and driving conversion rates. And so we're trying to do our part with people and product to help solve that problem. I feel like I really should be asking you this question, given your role. So maybe I'll flip it on you. And since you and your team do a bunch of education internally and with our clients, like what do you do? What's your strategy?
Yeah, so I'm going to leave out, for the sake of this webinar, how we help explain to developers exact steps they need to take to fix the situation or to push code. But in general, when I'm talking about search as a strategy, the first thing has to start with empathy. I have found that search often gets pushed into this black hole between groups, or just maybe as a subgroup of marketing, whereas we clearly think of it as a multiplier and really critical to all areas of the business. So it starts with empathy. The developers tend to get pissed off at SEOs for saying, fix your shit. The marketing team tends to get frustrated with developers for doing things just slightly different, even though they didn't give them technical specs. So it's talking about all of our goals. So as a developer, I think of them as artists or creators. I mean, they're pouring time and creative energy into building something and maintaining it. For a developer, getting their product into the hands of more people, I mean, that's where the magic is. That's where they want to see it happen. But in order for them to get that support, they need marketing and SEOs to be able to speak to them in a very accessible way in terms of the little things they can do to help their own case. So it's bringing together just folks between teams, because that's the biggest hang up I see usually, are just the teams not agreeing to the resources or not working together there. The second one is just good metrics. Everyone loves them. Let me help you hit your ROI. That's the biggest search strategy, is I can give you different ways to get there. 3-legged stool is great. 8-legged stool is better if I can show different ways to hit all of those. So it's just looking at business ROI and then individual business owners. That usually helps bring us together on like a top level strategic view. And if that doesn't work, so if I can't get humans to do the work, and if I can't get business metrics to really drive it with people's goals, then we just talk about money. Go to money. We all want to make it. Capitalism wins. I have mixed feelings about it all, but at the end of the day, this is how we all keep jobs. And this is how we make money and then decide to do great things with that money. So it usually comes down to, if I need to push people into it, that it is something that pays off quite a bit, lowers cost of acquisition, and pays off in multiples later on. And there's a lot of technical SEO that also eliminates risk or is an insurance policy. So sneak peek, Deepcrawl is going to do more in 2 of these areas that I care deeply about in 2022. And that's a big point of it, is how do we keep people safe and accessible? So it can start with humans. It can go all the way to just like, let me make you money and not get your ass sued. I'll take any road as long as the outcome is good. All right. So we've educated a ton of folks. We know we need to make a priority. I put the marketing department or marketing development here. I know let's see, marketing and development, because I've seen search sit on either side, right? And there are different things, like marketing has different goals than development. So I wanted to put these two together, and I really believe that they need collaboration from both sides. So what pushback have you seen, or do you expect when you ask other teams to work together and promote an awareness of search?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just nailed it a little bit a second ago, right? I think the pushback you get is when there are competing priorities that arise, and until you create, empathy and have the right metrics and communicate in a way that, ensure people know that this can enhance your competitive positioning, you'll continue to get that pushback oftentimes because, people just don't quite get it. And, if I can, kind of fast forward us to like the next step, I think it really, sort of emphasizes the need for, this, in many cases, like a task force or a tiger team or some group of folks, whatever you want to call it, that are cross-functional. And so that understands the power that can be generated from your website data and understands that it touches so many parts of the business. And, sometimes just getting all the right people in the room who can actually action and influence, do all those necessary tactics is an incredible outcome. On top of that, I'd say, more practically speaking, getting that group of people who can influence in a room and thinking about, what are the pages on your site that are most impactful, and ensuring that information is known sort of broadly across your organization. It's driving alignment with the team who's responsible for content on those pages, the DevOps team who's responsible for, that page's technical foundation. It's maybe the product team who cares a whole lot about the innovation that they're creating and how that converts to revenue. And maybe it's the marketing teams who track conversions and who set specific calls to action on pages. And so it's, this task force, these teams of people, I think, these steps really, I think, complement each other as they should. Is having all the right people in the loop to like get priorities set in the right way and make decisions in the right way that can really move the business forward.
Yeah, I think of even the case of showing to businesses what pages are actually ranking to see if it aligns with what's important to them as a business can usually be an eye opener. Yeah, and I like the term search ops task force. So I have, somewhat lifelong dream to eventually work for the government. So give me a cool title like that and I'm into it. But I see this as almost its entire new role. Like someone could take this on full time and really work to nurture the business this way. But what do you see as an ideal outcome for a task force?
Yeah, I think you've got to get the right people in the right room, and you've got to give the right people a seat at the table who understand this. And oftentimes that person who needs a seat at the table is someone who's in search. It is someone who's an SEO who understands this deeply and can do that education and can do the informing and can sort of help set really quantifiable goals for people to strive and attain. And a very frequently overused term, alignment, but it's a really important term. So you need that cross-functional alignment. And so I think getting that is a pretty key result.
You didn't say synergy, so you're okay here.
There you go.
Yeah, I agree. It's and I mean, on the flip side, for someone in search, so I'm a pretty technical person, but my mentors in Deepcrawl and my manager have spent a lot of time teaching me about the business side of things as well. So I think it needs to go both ways. But this is, number 4 is of course my favorite. Have to admit it. I've been known to squeeze my way and elbow my way into the table to help make decisions. But that's, as at Deepcrawl, we've changed that. We have changed that to make sure someone from search always has a seat at that decision-making table. And, most technical SEOs are well-intentioned, but they can be a bit pushy. So how do you think, I guess my question is, so Deepcrawl's done this really, really well. They've given me a seat at the table. God bless them. Have you seen this in practice with other companies? Have you seen that level of collaboration or other folks bringing SEOs to that C-level conversation?
I would say I haven't seen a whole lot or as much of it. I I think that's part of what we're thinking of here as we talk about these concepts. Is this idea of this age that we're now moving into, where it's starting to matter more, where people are starting to identify and recognize that across the business this becomes pretty important, and so it's becoming the norm, right? And so the pushy SEOs finding their place and finding their role, in the room or at the table at least, I think is a thing you'll have to start seeing more and more of, and companies who don't make those decisions, I think may find themselves a little left behind, right? The world's evolving and changing, and so organizations need to do what they need to keep up.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like in my role, I've often been stuck as a subset under a different group. So usually under marketing, which I've worked with some great marketing people, and I love that our marketing team in particular is very data driven. That brings them close to my heart. And I have seen that when I've been pulled under or work under development, usually we get stuff done quicker, which is nice. But what happens when folks get stuck either under development or under marketing, and they're just not able to really make that place to see SEO as a separate part of the business?
Yeah, I think the result of that is that there's just difficulty proving the ROI, I call it, of investments in this area. I think what you have is some of the results we've seen where there's this over reliance on paid search, right, as a means to drive traffic and as a means to drive conversions and revenue ultimately. And I think again, you start to find yourself at a bit of a disadvantage as a result of that. And so it also, I think I would say, results in a bit of call it underinformed leadership, right? They don't have all the data they need to make decisions, and this all has negative consequences, I say, at the end. And so as you think through some of the prior steps of educating and forming a team, and all of those steps are really designed to sort of knock down some of these barriers, or to remove this idea of an SEO getting stuck under other teams. And sometimes it's about finding who that right executive champion is internally, whether it's your boss or your boss's boss or whomever, who can help you sort of move some of the mountains out of the way to make things happen in a positive way.
Yeah, I like the idea of maybe just going to your SEO lead and saying, hey, let's talk about an hour of the what ifs. I don't want to hear all the problems of the site, but what would your ideal scenario be? Like, what could we do if SEO was done right? Because in general, they are thinking much bigger than just showing up in Google, which is great. Okay, I am going to give everyone a nudge and a reminder that you have a Q&A box. You have chat, toss questions in. We're ahead of time, talk fast when I'm excited. So don't be shy, give us some tough ones so I can read them out to Craig here shortly. I like to I got to put the heat on a little bit, right? They're saying, interview the CEO. I can't make it too easy for you.
Fair enough.
That would be off brand for me. But the last one, the Seo testing automation. So I, again, love this one because this is a big part of what we've been developing, and I've learned to appreciate all the different areas that this can help to improve the brand and help to improve the website. So this is the last and final point of the strategy. I'm going to chat a little bit about how I feel about it first before I hand it over. I'm going to wax on because this is just, it's become so important. And to me, empathy and compassion are the first part of how I approach any internal team setting. And this gives us a way, a tool, a data set to start to bring together development and marketing. And that's been one of the most exciting parts for me in terms of getting folks talking together and in the same room and appreciating each other. So we use testing automation in the pre-development or pre-live environment, pre-production. And that's what we usually need to do. We need to have marketing and devs working together and seeing the data. Also, selfishly, saves my job. I've been in too many cases where after someone pushes code, I have to spend the next 3.5 hours like frantically searching for what was broken. Could be little, could be nothing, could be something really catastrophic. So being able to eliminate some of that risk and maybe take some of the stress off your SEOs that are testing live is really fantastic. Also helps to eliminate human error. I hate to admit it, but occasionally I make mistakes. And it's just, it gives you time to start thinking forward rather than backward. I mean, one of the biggest things that we have is so many companies working on tech debt rather than innovating. The ideas are there. They've got the inspiration, they want to do it. But if there are so many bugs, if they're having to relaunch the same code set multiple times to fix issues, they can't innovate and they can't make the site best in class.
Right.
So I really love this because I feel like it is a simple but powerful solution to get folks talking, save time, and innovate. So now that I've waxed on, I've shown my love for the product. And the way that we do this at Deepcrawl is through Automation Hub, which is, again, super customizable, robust, but simplified in a way too. You do not need to be a tech SEO to get a ton of value from this. But I want to see where it's sitting with you and where you see it sitting within our business in 2022.
Yeah. So thank you for that description. It's obviously something an area that we're going to continue to invest in. We will continue to innovate around. It's unlike anything else in the market, right? Which is great. In that it allows us to offer something unique and something really powerful to our customers. I think you said it well in a slightly more colorful way about post code release running around frantically, but it is true, right? Instead of being reactive to bad code hitting critical pages of your website, why don't you just prevent that bad code from being released or from ever going there in the first place, right? And set relevant thresholds that will flag potential issues before the code actually goes live. And so it's a pretty meaningful and significant risk mitigation play for a lot of our customers who are actively using that capability. And so we're going to continue to call it educate the market on the value of that risk mitigation, in particular around making sure you maintain the right levels of site traffic, and obviously that ultimately, in the case of all of our customers, leads to mitigating risk to revenue. As we all know, sometimes if you do release that bad code and you lose that traffic, it can take months or years sometime to get that back. And so, we're trying to sort of take that risk off the table, or at least minimize it as much as possible.
Yeah. All right. That is super helpful. we had a few questions come in, so I'm going to pass that over. And then, we've got a little bit of time, so I might surprise you with a few questions as well. So first on, Francis asked a great question that I may have some ideas on, but what processes should SEOs really own or can be point on when doing a site migration? No, Craig, if you have thoughts on that, or I should jump in.
I'm going to let you take that one.
Okay, thank you. So I think that they need to be involved at least 6 months before. So they should be involved before anything's even mapped out. Let your SEOs talk about your site architecture. Let them start creating something that is sustainable, not only to get rankings now, but in order to set yourself up for growth as a business. So at minimum, start taking that, have them benchmark the data, have them figure out what pages are killing it, what pages aren't, and start to help with that content strategy. So don't leave them out of that conversation. Again, think of them as a multiplier. So I think that you need to have SEOs. Maybe they don't lead on point. It depends on the diplomacy levels at your company, but they need to partner. They need to make themselves available for each section of the business. And if they can own, or if they can at least be in the know of what the top concerns for each business section is, they're going to help you get to a good spot. So, for the developers, it may be that they're struggling with how to get the site faster. Bring an SEO on. They will help you with the relaunch. They will go through the code for the new CMS. They will tell you what's needed, what's not. For a content person, it may be, hey, we have all these old retired marketing stuff. I don't want to just delete it. What can we do to reinvent it, or to use it in a different way? So I don't know that necessarily you will get to own it, but I highly encourage you to just insert yourself in all of those conversations. There is so much to be done in the planning. It's the measure twice, cut once theory. So get in there, push yourself into that table, have ideas from the beginning. Don't plan on sleeping much than 24 hours post-launch. You need to be all over that shit. Testing automation will help you there. And then, when you set up those benchmarks, set up where you want success to be over the next, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, et cetera. All right, another one. Do you recommend using info on how competitors are doing? Like, how do you recommend doing that? And how could that be useful in pushing the business to own a search strategy or to invest in a search strategy?
Yeah, I touched on this a little bit earlier as well. And, there's a saying that people sometimes will use, which is, you only need to be better than like the next best option. And now certainly at Deepcrawl, we strive for much more than that. But that is often the decision that customers have to make, right? And so understanding the other choices that exist, and ensuring that you give them every reason to choose you. And part of the experience that customers have is is on your website, right? They're coming in, they're clicking around, and pages are loading, and how fast those pages load, and are there broken links on those pages, and can you navigate to the pages that are most important quickly and easily, and how many clicks does it take for you to get there, and is that experience better than the other option? And understanding what that other option is and how well they do does often set you up to improve yours, or at least gives you a bar in which you can make sure you sort of hurdle over or strive to beat.
I'm all about it. A little bit of peer pressure never hurt anybody, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much good data that's available publicly that, Google Deepcrawl has a ton of data that we keep anonymized and we don't tap into very well right now. But even from a public side, working with our pro services team, we will get you the case. We will help get you benchmark data. We will help get, stuff going on with your top 2 or 3 competitors, whether it's page specific or site specific. So definitely talk to your SEO agencies if they do it, or your tech SEO folks, or us if you get to work with my team. All right, I see one more question that came in. So how do you keep companies engaged long-term so they don't see SEO as a one-time thing?
Yeah, this is another one. I think I may push this one to you, Ashley. In my 6 months experience in SEO, I feel like you might have a little bit more here than me. And so why don't you give us your thoughts?
Yeah. I used to say that I did my job if I eventually put myself out of business, with the company like 10, 12 years ago. I felt like I was doing great work if they didn't need me at any one point. And that evolved. And so now when I think about keeping folks engaged, part of it is just having them understand that model, like the art gallery model, right? You can't just suddenly ignore the plumbing. Shit will happen, literally. So you need to be able to see it as part of maintaining the business, as supporting other efforts. So it's a switch. It's not a marketing play. It is business management. It literally needs to be there as part of the overall thing. I also find that just day to day, being able to send new updates from Google or what other folks are doing, or keeping them looped in industry news, not in a flooding way, but just in what they care about, has shown to be super useful. So if you can keep that awareness, even if it's little things fed here and there, then it's that familiarity breeds likeness. Folks are going to start bringing it into conversations on their own. But for me, yeah, it's you can't stop, because Google changes constantly. They don't tell us. Competition changes constantly. Someone is always trying to beat you. So if anyone decides to rest on their laurels, it doesn't matter if you change anything on your website. It doesn't matter if you break everything, you will be outranked eventually. So it becomes a part of that, not just innovate, but also maintain. So that's my song and dance in terms of getting folks a little more invested. Are you comfortable with me asking a few, not just SEO questions or leadership questions?
We may have time for one more.
All right, I'm going to ask a couple real quick. You have started growing plants during COVID. Give me three of the most durable plants that folks here could not kill.
Oh my God, I am obsessed. I've got a money tree, which is I think one of the more beautiful ones, like twisted, like braided money tree. It's this beautiful plant. I also got a golden petra, which is one of my favorites, and then I've got a snake plant, which I also love. But this one over my shoulder, is the one that keeps me company all day. And I can't quite remember the name of that one, actually, now that I'm sitting here.
You get to rename it. Did you know that when you get paid?
I am aware of that. I am aware of that, definitely.
Oh man, I was going to ask you for, so this is one I think you should tweet out at some point or even just tell me, but after 2.5 drinks, what story do you tell at parties that's just a crazy, like, oh my goodness, y'all would not believe this. I want to know that one, but I'm going to let you sit on that one.
Thank you.
But yes, because I'm going to pressure you now. But the last one I want to know is, what is your favorite nonprofit or social or community organization, either within Chicago where you live or just anywhere that is important to you?
That is a great question. And I swear I did not know that was coming. Actually,
you didn't. I threw that at you. I had to bring in the Trevor Project while I talked about this one because they're near and dear to my heart. So I thought I'd give you a chance too.
I love it. I actually, funny enough, just last week, I just accepted a board position at a nonprofit called the Humane League, which is an animal rights organization. And it focuses in particular on creating better lives for factory farmed animals. And so it's a very, call it pragmatic approach to animal rights. And so I'm really excited about the work that we're going to do there. I've got my first board meeting in a few weeks. But yeah, the Humane League, I'm really excited about the work.
That's awesome. That I like to end on a feel good note. You should all follow us, ask tough questions. They're my favorites. I am slightly more professional on LinkedIn than I am on Twitter. So it depends on what depth of depravity you want to get in there, but Craig's available everywhere. He's really gotten involved in the community. So follow him, harass him, bug him, get inspiration from him, especially if you are thinking about Deepcrawl at all, if you've interacted with the past, or if you're a current customer. Craig, you've always been open to talking to all of my customers. You have had, at this point, hundreds of hours of conversations with Deepcrawl clients. So I'm going to keep nudging that and saying you should all reach out. I think it's really important for us to hear from folks about what they think. If this helped, their thoughts on the product, doors always open.
I love it.
All right, my last housekeeping item. So after you have come together, asked us questions, all of that, we're happy to do a free consultation and a demo. So reach out. We have various ways for you to get in channel either on the website, or you can even reach out to me and I will get you scheduled with one of our sales folks, and maybe one of, goodness gracious, this mouse is so sensitive, with one of my team as well. So if you haven't seen Deepcrawl, if you want to talk more to us and how much we really care about this and helping your businesses, just reach out. We also have an ebook that's available on the site. So it's a really good one. It kind of hits on these same things as far as we have, getting ready for Black Friday, really important for e-commerce. We have the Google Page Experience, where we really dive into those three core vitals metrics. Should have had more than one coffee this morning. And the security, mobile, and interstitials. So there's a lot in terms of how we wrap that together and how that affects revenue. Our next webinar is November the 17th, and it has a specific use case around achieving SEO success. But you'll also catch some of us elsewhere. Jamie, Indigo, and I will be at AdWorld. We'll also be doing an SEJ webinar next week, and we have some folks lined up for SMX and a ClickZ webinar. So reach out to us. We're always happy to talk, and I can't wait to hear from you all soon.
Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you. Everyone have a great day.